This just became a bigger job than I thought it was going to be. If I were to call this black, I would call this a shade of gray. And that was the way, my friends, to save a carbon fiber ring on a Kia Stinger GTS. Hey guys, what is up? It's Biff, and you're back for another episode in the Fearless Mods Garage. We are once again working on the 2019 Kia Stinger GTS, and now that we got her to a beautiful, shiny, lustery orange, it's time to move on to some of the grill trim here, the carbon fiber repairs, so that we can go ahead and get that grill put back together, get the bumper assembled, and put it on the car. We've got a couple of cracked areas in our carbon fiber here, if you remember when we pulled the ring off. So they're in areas right here, here, and in the corner. 1, 2, 3, 4. So first thing I'm going to do is go ahead and mask those off so I'm not scuffing up the area around it. And then I'm going to take some of my emery cloth here, which is a really low grit sandpaper, and start scuffing those areas to try to, with a block, to try to get that leveled and smoothed out and feathered on the edges. Okay, so I did find a couple other little spots here, one here and here. I've taped them off about 1 inch off to the side of each one. These I didn't bother separating because they are right next to one another. And so now I am ready to get my block and start scuffing these edges, taking care not to get into any of the carbon fiber. This appears to be all surface coat crack. So we're going to go ahead and just kind of scuff back into it and try to feather the edges and see what we're left with without getting into the fiber. Okay, so that's going to be it for the 80 grit that I was using on here. I'm now going to go to something higher. Probably about 200 grit to go ahead and continue working on the edges of the clear coat here. Hopefully not getting into the carbon fiber. It's hard to tell a little bit, but I'm going to move on to that right now. What I've done at this point is I've sanded with the 80 grit. I then hit it with the 180 grit, and then I removed the tape and feathered that 180 out just a little bit further so I don't have any hard edges where the tape might have been if I was sanding up against the tape. And then I cleaned it with some isopropyl alcohol. I'm going to go ahead and blow it off now just a little bit. Alright, so we've got our areas marked here so we know where we can apply the resin as we're working. One thing to keep in mind is any of the resin I put on, I'm going to have to sand this again to get it smooth, and that's when we'll start working our way up to the higher and higher grits before we get to the polish. So once I get to those higher grits, there's some other scuffed areas here that aren't cracked or anything like that, but they need to be polished out just a little bit. So if they appear to be deep, if they don't come off with any of the rubbing alcohol, then what I may do is just go ahead and give them a little bit of the higher grit sandpaper rather than just the polish. But for the most part, most areas are just going to be able to be polished out. One thing I'm certainly not going to do is shake up the resin and the hardener, because I definitely do not want to introduce a lot of bubbles into it. I want as bubble free of a situation as I can get. I've got a couple of cups here that I can mix in and some clean stirring sticks. So I'm getting ready to do this. What I've got here is the West System 105 epoxy resin and 207 clear hardener. And I got these metering pumps that go with them so that we can make sure we get the right amounts of each to give us the proper ratio, 1 to 3. So 1 stroke of resin and 1 stroke of hardener should get us ready to go. We've got our foam tip brushes here ready to go as well. 1 stroke of that and 1 stroke of hardener. We'll go ahead and get this mixed up. Let's go ahead and apply the first coat of resin. let this set for just a little bit, get tacky, and then we'll be ready to come back in with another coat. All right, while that is curing, I'm going to go ahead and work on one of my side garnishes here. The one for the left, the driver's side, obviously was destroyed in the wreck and nowhere to be found. So I did get this one off of eBay. It does have a pretty deep scratch right here, and so while that's curing, I want to go ahead and hit this, probably just with some 180, so that I can get it ready for some of its own resin. This one probably won't take as many coats as the other one because it doesn't have any cracks. And the other one, probably one more coat, two at the most, to get it ready to go. So this one I'm just going to let dry, and then we'll be ready to sand it and polish it. The other one I'm waiting until it gets tacky to the touch, and then I'll be ready to put on the second coat. Okay, so this is dried to the point where it is tacky to the touch. So I'm going to go ahead and mix up another batch here, and we are going to put on a second coat on this. I actually am going to put a little bit of a second coat here on part of this because I had it setting here and it just now decided to drop and land face down and touch this one. This one looks good. So I'm just going to hit a little bit extra there so that when we're ready to sand that after it's cured, it'll be good to go. But let's mix up this and go for a second coat here. The weave is looking really, really good under the new resin, but we do have a little bit of a dip where the cracks are, where they soak in the resin. So now we'll go over the second time and see if we can fill that in just a little bit more and determine if we need a third coat or not. And now we wait for it to tack up again. It looks like we got a lot better coverage over the cracks up here on the top. If it looks like it has been, it's thick enough there, then I will leave it at that and we will sand it down smooth as we move to our higher and higher grits to get ready to polish it out. Okay guys, so we have let this set up and the epoxy resin is nice and hardened. The weave looks fantastic underneath it, but it obviously looks like a preschool project. So now it is time for us to go ahead and sand all of this smooth and start working on the polishing. Same thing for this one. Even though this back part could be painted up and made to look good, all of the tabs on the back have been broken off. And I'll go ahead and remove the carbon fiber from this one, and then we will salvage the other piece from the new one so that we have all of the connectors that we need on the back and mate them together. First thing I'm going to do is I made myself a small little sanding block, and I've got some 320. We'll start with the 320, get it, make sure that we're sanding it nice and flat, get all the high areas, and then we can work our way up probably to some 600, 1000, and then 2000 or so before we are ready to start buffing. There's a lot of sanding that goes on here, but that attention to detail is going to pay off in the end. So I've got this first section sanded with the 320. I still got two more sections that I need to sand. Alright, so with the rubbing alcohol on there, that looks pretty dang sweet. So I think we're going to be good to go. I went ahead and did the 600 cloth, 1000, 1500, 2500, and 3000, and it looks really good. I think it's going to come out really nice when we buff it. So that'll be the next step after I continue sanding the other parts. I gotta tell you, this is some time-consuming stuff, but we've now got the bottom done. Our two major cracks up top are done. They're fixed. They look good. Should polish up real nicely. Now we're going to go to probably the most complex area to sand, and that's in here around this curve. It was cracked there. It looks like it's going to be a really good repair. but it involves sanding all the outside of this curve and the inside of this curve. That's it for the sanding, and it is looking beautiful. So what we'll do is we'll take some compound and then just some regular car wax, and we'll get this all buffed out with a headlight ball on the drill. What I want to be careful of is not letting this get too dry and applying too much friction on here, because I don't want to burn up or melt any of the clear coat, the resin that I have applied. Now, let's go with a little bit of car wax on here and see what we come up with. Okay, and there we go. Our grill is, or at least our grill ring is back to being one piece of carbon fiber. Cracks turned out fantastic. And I don't know if it's going to focus on it or not, but you can't see them any longer. The one here is gone. The nicks and damage along the bottom edge are gone. It is buffed and polished. I could polish it a little bit more, but I'm going to hold off on doing any more of that until it's actually installed on the car so that it can support itself a little more. I don't like how I'm having to tweak on it a little bit too much. Next thing I need to do is epoxy some of the tabs back on the back and the bolts so that we can mount it up a little bit better. And obviously I also need to take this apart and get to sanding this one. Well, I'm sitting here messing with this thing and trying to put some heat on the back side so I can remove the carbon fiber from the front side. And I don't believe they used any kind of adhesive on their adhesive tape. I think they used some kind of epoxy adhesive. So I'm not sure if we're going to be able to get this off, and I don't want to risk breaking it. The issue I'm going to have is every one of these connectors being broken off except for these two. That's going to be an issue. So we'll have to see how we can go about perhaps fixing this one here, cleaning it up, painting it, and transferring the connection points over to it. Okay, and there we go. It has been a long day of sanding and buffing and polishing of resin, and we've got all of our carbon fiber repaired. Next thing I'll have to do is get ready to fix this up, maybe shoot it with some paint when I do the rest of the black trim, and most importantly, figure out how I'm going to transfer these mounting points back here. Alright guys, so here's the deal. The epoxy clear coat coverage looks really good. The glossiness of it, not quite on par. I already resanded it once with the 600, 1000, 1500, 2500, 3000. Buffed it with the rubbing compound, buffed it with the turtle wax, and then been polishing it with some Harley chrome cleaner. And it looks better every time. It's just not quite there, but it's going to have to be good enough because I'm not going to go drop the money on the replacement cost of this thing right now. I cannot remove this carbon fiber from this. My plan was to separate it from this one, this cheaper one, just like I did on the grill. Paint this gloss black, put the carbon fiber on here, and Bob's your uncle, we're good to go. So now I got to figure out a way to get these connectors, these plastic nubs, from here to here. These things are good and thick, so I'm cutting the lugs or the posts out of the new piece, and then I'm kind of just shaving down the spot on the old piece where it belongs to get like a little bit of a lower area there that the new one can set into, and it's thick enough that it allows me to then cut the back of this thickness in half That way when I epoxy it, it'll set in there level and I have a lot of good area to strengthen itself. We've got our replacement tabs all ready to go here. Should be pretty strong with the epoxy all in around there. The main thing I want to do is make sure that I have them all sitting vertically so that they all go straight into the car. I've got them on there. I got a little bit of sandpaper in there to kind of help get them, keep them to the level I want. They look straight left to right. They look straight in their row. Positioning should be pretty close. For now, everything looks lined up pretty good. We'll let that dry. Then I can remove the little piece of sandpaper and then come back around there with some more epoxy around them to strengthen them up. Okay, well, we got the ring out. Unfortunately, it's hard on both pieces to do that. Some of the little tabs in here break off, and others hung on, but the corresponding tab on this broke off. And unfortunately, they're the ones over here on the side that I could have harvested potentially and epoxied to ours. Luckily, ours did better in the wreck than this did coming off of here. So let's go ahead and get the other one and see what it looks like. Alright, so this is a pretty good feeling right here. This is like the showpiece of the car, the grill, the first thing you see, the carbon fiber ring. And instead of spending $1,800 on this thing, I think I spent about $180, repaired the carbon fiber, and stuck this thing back on here, and it looks pretty dang good. Now let's get this bumper put together. Okay, man, this is a bit of a process. There's a lot that goes into this bumper. I did pick me up some eBay black rivets, 1/3 of an inch long, and without a silver nub in there whatsoever. So those are looking really good. I've got the corner mounts here for the bumper that I've epoxied in like I said I would. They were plastic welded before, and I'm not going to plastic weld them because that would mess up my paint. So instead I epoxied them, riveted them in, and clamped them on so that it can cure and mold to the top of these little flimsy pieces on the fender. I riveted in these lower sections right here that connect in under the headlight. Those had no glue or plastic weld, they were just riveted. 6 here, 3, 3, 3, and 3. So what's that, about 18 rivets? Everything else is snapped in and screwed on and in place. So this is coming together really nice. After all this epoxy cures, we are actually ready to put the bumper on. That's where I'm going to go ahead and wrap this one up. This has been a lot of, just like the last one, a lot of sanding and polishing and buffing and trying to make carbon fiber look good. We continue to make good progress on the Stinger. Next time is going to be some assembly. We're going to go ahead and start putting the door together, piecing together some of the stuff on the hood, getting the fender on, and this thing's going to be looking pretty complete. But for now, thanks for watching, and if you like the Kia Stinger and the STI and the Trans Am and all the other content that we put out there, then please let your buddies know. But the main thing is subscribe. So go ahead and click that button. Thanks for watching. We'll catch you again real soon. Take care.